Well, welcome to, I guess, we have like a few podcasts already, so we haven't really decided a name for this one, but the first edition of, I don't know how to say this, I guess, step parenting, co parenting podcast. We'll come up with a name later. Maybe you can ask your Facebook group for that, but it's going to be a special episode. Um, it's going to be led a lot by Daryl here, and I would have to have to introduce myself. I'm Justin, but yeah, if you want to take it away.
Guess so. Basically, what I did is I decided, I became a step parent like over 2 years ago, and well, stepmother over 2 years ago, and you know, I struggled with it a lot at the beginning, and so to validate my feelings, I guess I joined a bunch of stepmom Facebook groups, and I saw so much similarities to stuff that we go through, what I go through. And so I was like, you know what? Let's talk about it in more in depth as like a therapy tool.
I mean, it's helped a lot too because there've been a lot of things that I didn't think about. I mean, we both this is both new to us. We didn't really know what angle to approach it, and the way we both are is we both don't want to upset each other. So we basically try to appeal to each other, but also appeal to our own opinions on the matter. And there were a couple times where we were at an impasse where we'd have an issue, and it would either be hard for me to understand or vice versa. And this group's helped out a lot with that. And
Yeah. There's like so many ladies on these groups that are like, so am I overreacting or dot 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 or like they ask for advice, etc. like that. So this can be like a tool for them as well to get because a lot of people have commented on it and were like, it'd be awesome to get like a third perspective.
yeah,
So, like, in any future episodes, I kind of want to do like, what is a scenario that you've struggled with, and like, then we can answer on it from like a third perspective. So a lot of women want that.
yeah, yeah. And I'm like, this probably won't get big or anything like that, but it's more so to help us out and hopefully help whoever listens as well. I mean, that's the whole intention of it, is to just if whoever's listening is going through a similar situation or they're learning from this to apply to their current situation.
Yeah, I know that lady commented was like, um, I really want to know like the man's perspective and how he feels, because a lot of men don't like talking about their feelings, and I was like, well, why don't you just get your husband to listen to this? So,
True.
and she liked the comment. I hope it does help her, and she does, you know, talk to her significant other about it or get him to listen.
Yeah. Then there are a lot of things too that like variables that take into account, like um my parenting style could be entirely different from her husband's or something like that matter.
Yeah, who's to say like you can't like learn off of that either?
True. Yeah. Valid.
So what I did basically is I posted in like a stepmother Facebook group, and I wrote, what is something that you wish that your significant other slash husband or whatever, because some
Hmm.
stepmoms
Yeah.
have not just a husband. Good for them. I've actually seen a few like same sex couples like in the stepmom groups. I always forget about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I took a bunch of screenshots of like all the comments, and this post got like I want to say like 150 comments.
It's a lot to go through.
It's a lot, and so there was just like I wanted to pick a lot of the ones that like we absolutely didn't relate to, but still put our piece on it, and like ones that we absolutely do relate to.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, because I'll be honest, like we have I have only one stepchild, and a lot of these women have one, two, three, maybe even four. Like that's just it's crazy. Like I feel like in a way I do have it easier compared to some people, and also I have it easier in the fact that like my stepdaughter is so young. She's only 3 years old, and I've been in her life since she was like 13 months old.
Yeah.
um, and a lot of these other women they step into their stepchildren life at like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, even adulthood.
Yeah.
And I can see how that'd be so much harder in a way.
Yeah, because there's always the likelihood of getting faced with resentment.
Stronger. It's like we're lucky that like this is the way our like the child is gonna be raised
Yeah.
normally.
I mean, visitation could be different too. So with our situation, we're still actively trying to figure that out, but currently it's month to month. So I'll get my daughter for a month, and then a month we'll have to ourselves, and it's kind of I would say it's good and bad. So I get to see my daughter a lot, and then you know it's kind of like the constant month to month can get a little taxing too. Um,
Yeah.
we'll probably change what next year. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so these are some of the things that people commented on. Of course, we don't have all the time in the world. We'll talk about every single one. I mean, if it was like something that was requested, then
Yeah.
but we'll see. I'll go through like all that I screenshotted. Um, somebody put that something that their husband doesn't understand is that the abuse happens when he walks at the door, and they're only sweet to her when the husband's not around.
I mean, obviously, well, we deal with the opposite because we have a toddler. Like she's rude. She can
To
have
everybody.
yeah, and I mean, we'll relate to it as much as we can. And the closest thing I can say is, with my daughter, the issue we've had is that she's territorial over me,
Yeah,
and so
so
randomly
yeah.
she'll get little like attitudes where she's told you to like go to bed or something like that, or the
Yeah,
latter.
go away.
Yeah, but um the other backstory too is I've dealt with this too from a joint family growing up, so I dealt with that personally. Um, it's hard because that's something that obviously needs to be addressed to the husband,
Yeah.
and it's putting the husband in a weird spot too because the thing that you want to always avoid, but it's always going to happen, is you don't want to feel like you're having to pick between your wife and your kids, and
Yeah.
like that's something that's like you feel guilty even thinking about that or feeling that way, but sometimes there's situations where it'll appear that way, but you got to find a way to meet in the middle.
Yeah. I think like the biggest thing is like that husband should be believing the wife like 100% and like telling those children that this woman is a place of authority. You can't just be rude to her and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's a boundary issue too. You need to be telling the kids that like when I'm not around, she's in charge, and you don't get to walk all over her like that. She never mentions the children's ages, so it's kind of hard to go in depth on that. But
Yeah, I would think too, if they're already acting this way, the husband telling their kids like what you mentioned, probably not going to work as likely because they're already going to have resentment towards her.
yeah,
Again, it depends on the age, but if that's the case, I don't my suggestion would be what I do with you with my daughter, is that there's like situations where I could definitely do a task like give her a shower or take her somewhere, but like you offer or I'll ask you to do it that way, like it's not appearing as like I'm the sole person for that. That way
mm,
she relies on you too for these things as well. And
yeah,
and it slowly and surely she equates the two, like on an equal plane. Um,
yeah.
again, like I don't know, we don't know the age of these kids that might work. Um, it's hard too because like you don't.
Like, are they at an over enough age that they know that what they're doing is wrong, and so like that's when the husband needs to be shutting that behavior down.
Well, that's the first easiest solution is the husband
Yeah,
needs to be mitigating that any way possible. I'm not so sure that they would be able to abide by that. That's gonna be a, and you don't want to do it too much because then you're putting yourself in a situation where, again, depending on the kid's age, they might retaliate by gravitating more towards the other parent's side. So it's a very delicate situation because her opinions, her value is very valid because she needs to be respected.
Yeah, it's
She's
something that should have been established at the beginning.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Um, a lot of these husbands mess up because they just think that like, oh well, the kids are gonna get used to it. Bye,
Yeah.
and that can be pretty traumatizing.
I mean, a relationship, a marriage is a lot of work. It's constant, ups and downs and working and communicating. But having a joint family is like that on crack. It is.
Yeah,
You can't just sit there and be like, my kids will adjust eventually. Like you have to
yeah,
actively be doing things to make them known that like this person's gonna be here or like they're a part of the family. Like
yeah. I mean, I think our biggest advice from that comment would just be, you really do need to talk to your significant other about that and like work on a game plan on like fixing that
yeah.
and really communicating with those children.
That's the important part is that whatever they come up with, it needs to be clear that the husband is also contributing and it's a part of his idea as well and not it's not
It's not
appeared.
just her idea.
Yeah, because then the kids are immediately going to think it's them against her.
Um, this person said, um, something that I wish my husband understood was those are his kids, not mine. Meaning, yes, I stepped up to the role of a stepmother, but that doesn't mean I should do and be responsible for everything that their mom should be doing. I do not have biological children as I deal with infertility. I'd love to have my own kids, but I can't. Sometimes, since they aren't my kids, I just need a break. But since their mom is a D-bag, I'm left to feel like I need to step up and be that mom that they don't have. Um, I would say like we don't really deal with that yet. Like, um, my stepdaughter's biological mother is involved,
Yeah.
so um, like it's different. It's like um, again, my our biological mother, she also lives far away, so it's kind of like what happens in our household, what happens in our household, and what happens in her household happens in her household. Um, and that should be something that's like respected. So, um,
Yeah.
it's tough. It's like I guess what she's trying to say is she doesn't want to be expected to be the full time mother. She didn't choose to have kids,
Yeah.
so she shouldn't be the sole person taking care of them.
It's it's yes and no. Like she has every right to step away whenever she cares to because again,
Yeah.
that's not her kids. But like if they want any chance of being like a joint family, she's got to contribute and take care where she can. There are things that a mom has her own special right to when it comes to her children that like she doesn't have that right to. She shouldn't feel the need to be their mom regardless of how shitty their mom is.
And yeah, that ties again to her husband. Her husband's expecting her of all this stuff. I think a lot of these men get a wife and think that this is just gonna be like their kid's mother, like
Which is
automatically.
crazy to me.
Yeah, it
I
is.
think it's more of like if you offer to do things or help me with things like that's it's like an optional like gives me a
Which I
break.
do.
Yeah. And
I enjoy.
so I don't ever view it as mandatory. And nor did I ever think like, okay, well this is my daughter's new mom now. Like
Yeah.
yeah, that doesn't make sense to me either.
Yeah. Definitely a husband issue that needs to be communicated. And like I think a lot of these women just really do need to sit down with their husband and be like, so this is how I feel, and let's come up with a plan to fix it.
Yeah.
Like there's nights where like you guys get home from work and she gets home from daycare, and I don't even want to like hang out with you guys. It's not all the time. It's actually super rare, and I'll just stay in our room and not want to hang out with you guys because like I don't know. I need a break.
Yeah.
And like I'm allowed to have that break because that's not my kid. And like
Yeah,
I think that's what
100%.
and like she's probably feeling like she can't go and have that break. because she's just expected to
No, I think
continue taking care of the children type
the,
of thing.
the line should be like, she can take a break whenever she can. But if the husband's like feeling overwhelmed, he has the opportunity to ask, "Hey, can you help?"
Yeah,
And
it's
I
like
think
partnership.
her standing with the children should be, she's not their mom, but she's not their friend. She's like in between there, like like
Yeah,
a reprimanding person.
I think she might be looking at herself as like basically a glorified babysitter.
Yeah, which it shouldn't be that.
But yeah, it doesn't help that like their biological mother is non-existent, so automatically she feels she has to take the mother role too.
Yeah, but I mean, she shouldn't have to carry that burden. You can carry good maternal characteristics, and like you see these feel good stories of like people filing adoption papers and all that stuff, because of the parental figures not existing, like this the kids giving their stepfathers or stepmoms like as a present for their birthday, which is nice, but it's not the expectation. um but I don't I guess yeah, I feel like I stand by that. Yeah.
Next one is my husband needs to understand that it's unfair for him to vent about his kid, complain about his kid, but overreact if I have any type of advice or feedback, and that it's extremely difficult to be expected to love them as your own, but not overstep in parenting, always bow to his authority, and never receive anywhere near the amount of affection, inclusion, or emotional closeness that bio parents get. Um, yeah, I mean this is a big one that we talk about like a lot.
Yeah.
Um, I think like this one time he made a comment to me and was like, "Well, when we have kids, I'd expect you like to love, our three-year old the same as our kids," and I'm like, "It's not gonna work like that." And like he didn't mean to say it like that. He knows what he did. Like he knows he worded it wrongly, but at that time I was like, I'm never gonna love her the same amount that like I'm gonna love my own kids. Like they'll be treated the same, and I'm gonna aim to treat them the same, but like they're never gonna be like loved the same way. Not in like an obvious way, but like in a
And
deep
that's what
feeling
I
way.
meant by that, was
Yeah.
like, like you're cuddling on the couch with our kids watching a movie, and my daughter has to like sit in the corner or something like that.
No.
That's what I meant, and that's why I changed it. I was like, I meant like respect, like, obviously you're gonna love your, blood differently.
Yeah, and like she's saying that like she a lot of like as a stepmother we're like expected to love these kids so much in the same way we love our own children, and in the reality of that we can't do it. um the part where she said it's unfair for him to vent about his kid to me but overreacts when she has any type of feedback. um I agree with that. I think it's wrong. It's like why are you trying to complain to me and then not take any help or
Yeah, I mean that kind of circles back to what we originally talked about, and like at the end of the day, it's co-parenting. Like if you're venting, and you should be taking advice, that's communication. Like
yeah, exactly.
you need to first off work on like parenting plans that you guys can join together, and it's a lot harder now because you're dealing with the situation where there's a child that like one of the significant others can't properly parent because it's not theirs. So you have to create a way to basically mitigate that.
Yeah, there's like a lot of time, and then she also talks about overstepping in parenting, and I feel that a lot. Even though like you've told me like you have full parenting rights, you do what you think is best in that scenario, like blah blah blah, especially like when you're not around or something. And but there's a lot of times where like I mean I'll parent her when you're not around, but like sometimes when you're around or like your parents are around, I feel like there's like that eye on me. And I always feel like I might be overstepping, even though like when she's at our house, like I'm the mother figure in our house. So, you know, it's something that like I need to work on to be better at like, being not scared to like tell her what to
Yeah.
do or something like that.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I'm sure it's like a common feeling that a lot of these stepmothers are feeling too.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. Um, and I know like, other than this is also an age thing, it's like you're not gonna if I became a stepmother to a 16-year-old right now, like we all know a 16-year-old is not gonna listen to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
So
whole different story too.
yeah, it's really about like how that family like is when that stepmother comes into the household. But I don't think it's fair that your significant other is overreacting when you try to give back feedback. It's like that's the point of venting.
Hmm.
You listen, and then once they calm down, you give them what you think is advice. And whether or not they take that is up to them. But at least like you're still giving them what you think is right to say in that moment.
I mean, in a lot of situations too, getting a perspective like that where it's kind of an outside perspective that has less emotional attachment that you do, it helps to hear that different side of things too.
Yeah. Someone wrote, I wish my husband understood that the conflict with the can and is a lot. It messes with your mental health. Telling somebody that it's not a big deal or just let me handle it doesn't make it better. And there's like been times where like you won't tell me like anything about like you and the bio mother's conversations because you feel like I don't know, like maybe you're sparing my feelings or sparing me the drama. Like that's not fair. It's like I'm an involved I'm a involved stepmother, so it's like that's something I should be known like pretty much 24/7. If you can't expect like you just can't expect like a woman to be an involved stepmother and not like tell them everything.
Yeah, this is something I struggle with a lot too because I don't want to put that emotional burden on you either. And but at the end of the day, I would love for a scenario where we can all get along in peace and just focus on um the kids and helping the creating an environment for the kids that's the most enjoyable. That's kind of like where like my past with her mother, like I'm not too fond of talking about it because it's going to do is start out the gates of you immediately having spite towards her mom, and that's not going to help us have any chance at moving towards a situation where we can all just communicate well enough for the sake of the children.
Yeah, but it's also not fair. Like take the children like out of the scenario. It's not fair for you to keep that from me either.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
No matter like what you say, or no matter how much you try to sugarcoat it, if you did, like there's always gonna be like an animosity. Just like no matter what we do, she's probably gonna have an animosity for me. It's just
Yeah, but
this is
I can't
what the
control
relationship's
that
gonna
side of the
be.
thing. But like
And
I
it's
just don't
yeah,
want
but
to
it's
be
also
that
not fair
person
for
that's
you.
beating beating a dead horse. Just like I don't know. Like I grew up with being the oldest. Like I would go over to my dad's and I would just listen to my dad speak ill of my mom, and then I would go home to my mom and
Yeah,
I was hearing my mom speaking ill of my dad.
yeah.
And so it's like I don't want to be that person. And like
I agree with
I
you, but
do
it's not.
tell you like I tell you things of like this happened, and it's kind of why like I am this way, because I've dealt with this in the past. Like
Mhm.
I just don't like to talk about it that entirely too much because I don't. I mean, I get there's gonna be animosity in either way, but I would like to prevent it where I can.
Yeah, but it's like if you're looking at it from that point of view, you saying that it's like you're saying that like you don't like how the children go to the house and then the parents just talk crap about the other parents, where you can still tell me things and I'm not gonna like sit there to to the 3-year-old and be like, your mom sucks. I would never
I
do
mean,
that.
yeah, and like
I can still know things and not
I do
tell the
feel
child
you. I
stuff.
feel you in on like the conversations, like
Yeah,
that her mother and I we have.
yeah, yeah. And a lot of this, we do things like differently than a lot of other women do it, and our well, not even a lot of women, a lot of families do is like a lot of families will do the court ordered parenting app. All four
Yeah,
parents are in the conversation, or they have a group chat with like all four parents, or like some of them just have the two parents communicate, or some just have three parents that communicate because sometimes one person doesn't have a significant other,
right.
and yeah, but ours is they just communicate. I think it also like it does like I do communicate with the bio mother, but it's very rare.
Yeah,
Um, for like everything that's like obviously important and pertains to the child, they communicate. And like in a way, I do like it that way because I get a peace of mind.
hmm,
Um, but I also never would want to be like left out in the dark either.
yeah. And I try to fill you in on all aspects about that too.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, they say it messes with your mental health. Yeah, it does mess with your mental health, but um, yeah, it's something also I signed up for. So it's like I looked at every aspect before I was like, I'm gonna jump into a relationship with somebody that has a kid. And everyone, a lot of people say in these groups, like, well, I never signed up to be this type of stepmother. And then I get it, but like, you still signed up to be in a relationship with a man that has a child. So
Yeah,
you should have like thought about or communicated a lot more before getting married or getting super serious. Um, I just can't stand women that are just like, I didn't, and the thing is, a lot of them, not even that I can't stand, but a lot of women say, I married the father, not the kid. But it's like, but you did. You
yeah,
married both.
yeah.
That's not fair for you to say.
I mean, like depending on the age, whenever like things like this, like when divorce happens, a lot of kids are going through it. I've seen it all, like depression, grades dropping, detrimental activities to their health. Like the last thing they need is another person in their life that they view as an antagonist.
Yeah.
And you have it in the easiest situation where you don't have to apply as much emotional attachment to the situation.
Mhm.
You literally could just be there for support. Obviously, like there are gonna be times where you need like respect and whatnot, but like you're that person where you can hang out with them and be a peace of mind for them from whatever situation they're going through. And that kind of ties into the age because like my daughter, for example, I'm sure she has like somewhat of awareness, but not entirely of what her
Yeah.
current situation is.
Yeah.
But you get like a teenager or something who like they just feel like their whole life has been flipped around. Like I
Yeah.
guarantee you, like from
So much animosity.
family members' experience, the last thing they need is someone they have to battle with on top of the mental strain they're already dealing with.
Yeah. Someone wrote that being asked to do so for a child that is disrespectful and hateful towards you is almost as bad as the behavior, especially if husband knows and acknowledges the disrespect. For me, I want to be my husband's partner, and that includes stepping up when he can't. But asking me to deal with an extremely toxic child makes me feel taken advantage of. And this also bows down to the fact that like, your husband needs to have your back. Um,
That's the easiest, like, yeah,
and like
straightforward solution.
and I responded to this lady and I said, this is why, our husbands need to have our backs. And she responded back to me and said, and not make us feel guilty when we stick to our boundaries. That's the hardest part. And I don't really deal with that in our relationship. I feel like, I'm kind of one of the lucky ones where like my husband will listen to me and like, support like
We,
most
we,
of the
we
stuff I
dealt with it
say.
slightly. I mean, when because it was hard to kind of discern between it being the a tantrum as opposed to just straight resentment towards the fact that like you're someone that's new.
Yeah.
And it's easier to deal with too though with a toddler, because you just kind of like show them, hey, that's not how we act towards this person.
Yeah.
With kids that are older, that's definitely more of an issue. The biggest issue is y- your husband should be standing up for you for situations like that.
Yeah.
The minute they don't, it's just them promoting that type of activity to occur. It's going to keep happening, and it's just going to become a mental strain on you.
Yeah. Exactly. It's even worse when, like, if she says that, like, her husband sees it, acknowledges it, and then basically chooses to ignore it.
The other thing too is that it's really vital how the husband goes about it too.
Yeah.
Um, Something from my childhood was, um, let's see, my sister was getting in trouble, and our stepmom was reprimanding her, and like she was yelling at my sister. I forgot what she had done, and it wasn't anything where it's like she was right to do so. Like I remember her being in the wrong. Like she was getting in trouble. But what my sister will never forget is the fact that our stepmom was reprimanding her, and then downstairs my dad was just sitting on the couch watching TV. And so it's kind of like, already you look at that situation. My sister is thinking my own dad like doesn't support me, or won't come in to help. Like it's super important. Like the husband's the most important piece in that situation,
Yeah.
because he's got to come in and he's got to say, look, I
Back her up.
I back what she says, and then also on the flip side, like I would say sympathize with the child to say like like, look, I know like you're feeling this way, but also understand like you did this and this is why we're upset. Like like be the mediator.
Parent.
Yeah.
Be the
So
parent.
and that's what you were talking about too. Like where husbands, they get in these situations and they think that they can just be like, okay, I found a new mom, I'm good. Let me get up to six pack. Like that's not. You are the most important piece, and you're
Yeah.
constantly having to be aware of the situation and constantly having to parent.
It's like you don't get a break, and even in like relationships where there's no step parents and it's both bio parents, a lot of dads will do that and they'll take a step back and be like, well, mom's got it, mom's got it, mom's got it.
Yeah.
And that's like never the case. And then now your wife has resentment for you. Good job. um Next one, this is like a big one that I struggle with, but not as much anymore because we talk about it a lot, but like when we first started our relationship, this woman said, no bio kids here. So for me, I get very frustrated from time to time because I just don't feel like he understands the struggles that I have with some things. He doesn't have to live in my past or even hear about it, but I have to live in his every day. I just recently told him that I firmly believe that 85 to 90% of our problems are the kids. If they were not involved in our daily lives, then we wouldn't have hardly any problems, in my opinion. Um, so first off, I'm gonna be like realistic here. You're always gonna have problems in a marriage.
Yeah.
Whether there's children involved or not. um, as for the living in the past thing, yeah, it fucking sucks. I have to constantly be reminded that you were married. You had a kid with someone else. You need your first with everyone else. Meanwhile, like, you were my first serious relationship, and then we got married and like
Yeah.
everything like that. And every day I have to like look at this reminder, and not that I hold any resentment towards a child because of that. It's just like in my head.
Yeah. I mean, my
There's
thing.
no anger, but it's
I know that. Yeah. I mean, to the biggest way that like helped with me when you were trying to address this was sharing articles, reading articles that represented like your opinions. That helped me understand a lot. But the other thing is like I it it's something that's unavoidable. So and it's kind of like a blunt answer, but the problem is like you chose to fall in love with this person. You can't you don't really pick and choose who you fall in love with because it's fate. Like that's how the cards fall. Um, and like, yeah, you guys don't get to share your first, but like the advantage is that you guys have each other and you have this future and you can build on this future together. And like, yeah, sure, 85-90% of the problems are the kids, and if they were taken away, you wouldn't have any problems. But again, like you said, that's highly unlikely. You would still have problems in your relationship. And I'm sure there's probably a lot of psychological factors to that where like you're being reminded of his past, and so whenever there's an issue you just gravitate to the fact that like it's the kids or something from the past, and your mind just adds more weight to it, and you're like it's these are all the issues I'm having, and like all the other stuff that like are pure relationship issues you just kind of like gloss over it.
Like my thought process isn't necessarily like that, but I'm sure there's a lot of women, even maybe this woman, that think like whenever there's any type of issue, they think like, well, we wouldn't even be having this issue if I wasn't constantly living in your past. So, which kind
Yeah,
of sucks, but
and I mean like the other thing too is it's not really brought up, but the husbands in these situations, I guarantee you, at least 9 out of 10, unless the 1 out of 10 husband is like a psychopath or something, but 9 out of 10 husbands, they level with you, like they feel guilty, they feel bad. Like I tell you all the time, like if I could put myself in a situation where I still had my daughter but never met her mother, I would 100% do that because I love my daughter, I love her personality. I just my biggest regret is meeting her mom, like the past that comes with it. And like I wish I could, it's like a switch, I wish I could turn it off and like be like, hey, see this past, and just flip it off and be like, no, you don't,
yeah,
it's not that easy, and it's something that's going to be there for the next
it just
16
reassure
18
me
years.
that like it makes me feel a little bit better, but
I mean, that kind of ties back to like how um talking about my past with her, like I don't necessarily do it that much because I feel regret. Like I feel embarrassed because there were a lot of red flags. A lot of people advised me, and I was just young and dumb and stubborn. And if I had just listened to them and then just kept on my path of playing World of Warcraft, eventually would have met you.
I know, but I also have to look at it, but like if none of that ever happened, would we truly have ever met? Like I don't know, maybe not.
I like to, I
It's
like to
all
think
part
we
of like our
would.
story.
I mean, yeah, like like everything you do leads a step closer to where you're supposed to meet your person. But
Yeah.
I've always told you too, like I think that like soulmates are where we have these parallel universes, like our own lifelines, and no matter how hard we try to go do our own separate things, we're always gonna meet each other. So I feel like, it would have been maybe quicker or longer, but we would have met each other eventually.
Maybe. Yeah. That doesn't make me feel better, but yeah.
Why?
Like you're basically saying like um I don't know how to explain it.
What the if no matter how hard we tried to.
And no matter like what direction you would have taken, we would have met each other. So truly
Well,
you just took the harder direction. Thanks.
okay. Well, I was stubborn, but there's a movie that like that with Matt Damon that's like that where they're soulmates, and like Matt Damon's on the path to become president, and there's like these like police who they monitor timelines, and they're trying to make sure that he's on the straight timeline to become president. And like no matter how hard he tries, he's always meeting this one lady, and they're always like, why is he meeting this? And they're like, oh, like she's a soulmate, and they try really hard to keep them apart. And like that's why I say like no matter how hard we try, like if my timeline police tried to keep me separated from you, we would still gravitate towards each other.
Whatever. Yeah, soulmates. Doesn't it feel better? You should just be like, yep, this is life.
I don't know about that answer.
Like, what a lot of these like women talk about and just say it in different ways is that and we kind of briefly touched on this already, but that we aren't required to love his kids the same way we love our bio kids, just like the kids aren't required to love us the same way they love their mother. Um, so like in my case, I have no biological children
Mhm.
yet, and that feeling sucks. And like I talk about this with you all the time, how like it sucks because I do everything a mother does, when it comes to like affection and taking care of her and stuff like that. And I get no reward.
Yeah.
I get like nothing, and it sucks. Um, it is what it is, but it's not fair. But
I
mean,
mean,
it is what
what
it
would be
is.
fair in that situation though, too? Like,
What would be fair is, we just had our own kids, and they
well,
got to call me mother.
well, yeah, yeah. But I mean, like,
Like I'm saying, it is what it is, and
so it's just you're saying that you want kids with extra steps.
huh?
Are you saying you just want kids with extra steps?
What do you mean extra steps?
Like that's what you're trying to get around because you're saying that you're doing all these maternal things but not being rewarded for it. But I'm thinking like, okay, well, with my daughter, how can I help provide a solution? And you're just like, well,
You never will be able to.
I know, and that's what I'm saying is like, are you just saying that like this is just one of those things that
It's like just like
it's
a
a
brand
hard
thing,
thing?
basically.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
and which is what this woman is saying too. Is it's not fair. Like we do everything a mother does, but we don't get any like love in return. Like I'm sure Gravy loves me. She tells me she loves me. I mean, most of the time to tell
yeah.
me.
But like even with
But it's not the same.
the reward should be the love that you guys shared though. It's not going to be the same love that you have for your own birth born children. Yeah. But you still have love. Like that's still worth something.
It's like it's basically like if we're looking at it like which I mean it's like a bad way to look at it, but if we're looking at it from like say I'm a nanny or a babysitter, I do everything a mother does.
Mm-hmm.
I just get paid for it, and I'm not their mother.
Yeah.
So it's like the same thing, except again,
It's
I'm not getting paid for it.
it's different though because like the love itself.
Same. No, it's not a mother's love. It's not a daughter's love.
Yeah, and the reward that you're looking for, you're not going to get. You're
Yeah.
never going to get.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that there's still
But
some
from her,
reward there
it's-
though. Because you make it sound like you are a nanny, and it's like that's not true.
No, I'm not saying I am.
Yeah.
But it's like because if I look at it from like my bio kid, when I have bio kids, I'm gonna do everything with them that I did with her, but it's gonna feel different.
It's going to feel more rewarding.
Yeah.
But like that's the thing is like you can love your birthborn kids and your significant other's kids completely differently.
Yeah.
It's the treatment that the minute you start treating them any different is when it becomes a problem.
It's like the thing is, it's like another thing is, it's like, say if I had my own children, I do everything for them.
Mm-hmm.
They would be like, "Thanks, I love you, let's cuddle, whatever." I do that for her, for my stepdaughter, and it's okay, bye type of thing. As much as like you say we love each other, it's still like the reactions are gonna be so much different.
Yeah.
So that's like another part that like sucks.
Well, yeah, because you have one child that looks up to you because you're her mother, and the other one that looks up to you as like you're my friend, basically, in a way.
But not. I'm not her friend. I'm like her friend. I'm like her half friend.
Yeah, like I wouldn't say
Or
friend
half
entirely,
bestie.
but yeah, I mean, it's tough, yeah, because it's like you're doing a job that you're not going to get that rewarding dopamine as that you seek entirely, but there are moments that you will have, like the moments where you're on the couch and y'all are laying together watching a show or having a tickle fight. Like there are moments to bask into.
Yeah, I do.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I think like obviously this isn't something that's ever gonna be solved. It's just more of me complaining. It's like it's still never gonna be the same. Yeah, and all these women feel the same way. So it's more of just like a validation of feelings.
Yeah, an issue that doesn't have a solution.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's more of just like, I feel like this, she feels like this, she feels like this.
Yeah, and
So
I
it's
mean
not
like
something that's like uncommon.
And no one ever said that like your feelings aren't validated or not truthful, you know.
But some of these women have husbands that just expect them not to have those feelings, I guess, you know.
There's not. They're looking for a replacement mom.
That's what I'm saying. Like a lot of women feel like that.
I don't know what we're finding.
Not that I'm saying like this comment means that, but
Yeah.
it's just a sucky situation when it comes to that, basically. Okay, moving on to more of like the family organization aspect. This woman wrote that even though I love my stepkids as my own and treat them as such, I have no legal ties to them whatsoever. I cannot make medical decisions if neither parent is present. There are just some things that he has to step up and do for his own kids that I cannot simply do because I am not on their birth certificate. And this time, like this is like more about organizations. So like there's a lot of things that you're like, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. And I wish that I could just sit there and like do it all because I'm an organized person. Like I have a calendar on the fridge, you know, I have a notebook, and like I'm more like an organized when it comes to like, you know, our days, I guess. And you'll be like, oh, like I need to do this, I need to do that. You know, when it comes to like the hospital medical stuff, like I can't go and do that because like I have no legal ties to her.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had to make her like a dentist appointment or something like that, I could do that. But I can't do everything. And it's something that like it sucks because when you're like the woman of the household, that's like not like I'm saying like it's your job, but it's like the job that a lot of women like to do, you know?
Yeah.
And like we can't even do that because it's like, and like some of these also like another thing is some of these women that have no bio mom in the picture, they can never make these decisions because they're not the legal parent.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing that just ranting to rant.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but yeah. I think it's just like, you know, we're bringing out all lights of people's
Yeah.
feelings, like validating all their feelings. Someone said, sometimes I wish he would just let me. Sometimes I wish he would just let me bitch and would be as into it as I am, and then we can have a rational conversation afterwards. I don't feel like I
Bitch about what?
like about the kids.
It depends.
But
I mean,
like
it's
about
situational.
kids and about like being a step parent, I guess.
I mean, I'm pretty good about letting you
Yeah.
vent, and I'll let you, get it all out. And
yeah. But afterwards, come up with a solution.
if I hear something that like I don't agree with, I let you know.
Yeah, that's fine. Just like she's complaining that like she can't do that without she can't complain about anything.
I don't agree with that.
Yeah, and that's definitely like a you should be talking about your husband about this.
Yeah.
Because I would probably die if I could. Because like a lot of times I have to say to you, you know, pretend she's not your kid. Pretend it's a kid that I'm like babysitting or something. And this is what she did today. Would you be angry about this? And you'd be like, yeah, or no, or you know, you're just looking at it from a different perspective, or like blah blah. So, and then afterwards we'll have like an actual like, how do we solve this?
That's the elephant in the room too. Is it's hard from the husband perspective to separate, like,
this is my baby. Yeah, I get that, but unfortunately, when it comes to like, this type of relationship, yeah, pretend.
I mean, that's the hardest hurdle a lot of husbands have to go over too. So
it's like, still gotta make your wife happy because kids are just gonna put you in a nursing home. So.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like there are situations too, though, where it's like, you have to basically look at it as from an angle of like, is this something that my child's doing that if they weren't my bloodborne child, that would not be acceptable behavior? And then other times is like, is this just, depends on the situation of them being like a reactionary emotion.
Yeah. this is something that like makes like not even just me angry, but like honestly your whole family. I wish you knew how much it hurts when all I get is criticism and all the bio mother gets is compliance. I get that he tries to keep her happy, so she won't withhold, but it's shitty to see her be a straight up bitch to him when it's not justified. And he just says, yeah, you're right. Like, stop fucking validating her.
Yeah, and you know where I stand with that.
I do. But, I'm allowed to say it bugs me.
Yeah.
Like, your mom and I talk about it all the time, and we're like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
But we get it too, though.
Part of it too is PTSD from being abused by her too.
Yeah, but like, it's like you have so many people on your side.
Yeah, I've done a good job standing up to her too. I think a lot of
Yeah.
it boils down to with us
It is
nearing
taking
court.
your back.
Yeah, 'cause there are a lot of battles I could pick. So, and like before, I just picked every battle and ended up being exhausted.
Yeah. This is something that I talked about a lot. I think at like the beginning of like my involvement was that having a step kid is not the same as having your own kid. That and the chronic outsiders that is. So I mean, we already talked about how a step kid is not the same as having your own kid, but the chronic outsider status. It's basically what she means is that you know, I've said some things about how like when we're in public and like you're holding her and you're walking 5 steps in front of me, I literally just I feel stupid.
Yeah,
I feel like I don't really belong with you guys.
but like my argument to that is, what's your anticipation with that? Do you anticipate me slowing down and holding your hand, or having my daughter hold your hand? Like, are you expecting me to make the initiative to mitigate that, or is it something where we both have to basically be actively aware of that, and like, you know, you hold her hand when we get out of the car or something like that, or I make sure to slow down?
Like I don't notice it like anymore, but like a lot of this was like at the beginning too. Um, I don't know, it's like I think it was just more of like getting like, used to maybe. I don't know, but like there's a lot of times where like or we have our whole family over and like this is just like an example. Like I'm not saying this
Mm-hmm.
happened. Like when our whole family was over and like you and her over in the corner playing together, like I'm just like sitting there. Like I have to entertain the guests. And like I'm already feeling like a chronic outsider when you saying that's anything that's ever
Yeah,
happened,
yeah,
but like that's just a scenario.
yeah. I mean,
And like it's just a feeling. It's not like it's like nobody's gonna as soon as someone feels like that, someone's like nobody's gonna stop and be like, "Hey, I feel really left out in this scenario." No, it's not gonna be talked about till later.
yeah. It takes both parties,
Yeah.
to feel included, to make it known that you want to be included. Um, the other situation that kind of plays in that too is like the husband in that scenario. How often do they see their child? Like, what if it's a situation where they just picked up their kid and they haven't seen him in a while, and they want to spend time with them?
That's totally different, probably.
Well, I'm just saying, like, that could also be a
But
scenario.
even then, it's like in this house, like we're a family.
Yeah,
So, I'm not saying you guys aren't allowed to just hang out just by yourselves, but like it shouldn't be something that happens like all the time.
yeah, but it also plays into like um making the initiative to play with the child too. You know, um, I feel like
Yeah.
it takes both parties, because the husband too has to be like, if you're playing with your child in the corner of the room or something, and you see your wife sitting on the couch or something, talk to your kid and be like, hey, shouldn't so and so be like, what if they're like this character in our game or something like,
Yeah.
it takes 2 seconds for you to make it known to your child that there's another person in the room that can play.
Yeah. That's true. It's again, it's just one of those things that like just like a feeling.
Yeah,
And yeah, there's
but that
ways to help it.
yeah, that's easy. There's solutions for that one.
Yeah, there's solutions, there's communication and stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, I noticed it a lot in like actually in restaurants. Uh, I noticed it a lot in like restaurants. Like you'll be sitting here, um, I'll sit across from you, the kid will be sitting there, and like I know what the kid drinks, I know what the kid eats, and like you'll just like straight up order for her, which is like fine. But like there's a lot of times where like unfortunately slash fortunately, you know, the waitress will look at me because I look like the mother,
Yeah,
and they'll just talk over me and just be like, "Oh, she'll get this."
but see, in that situation,
Is that
you
just you
could you
not
could
being socially aware?
you could have been like, hey, do you mind if I order this time?
But like I think it's just something that's so small that like I shouldn't even say anything.
Because especially starting out, there were things that like I didn't know whether I could ask you to help with them, and so I was
Just
like, I have to be the one to do this,
I get that.
yeah,
But like
and
now
that
you know I'm cool with like pretty much everything.
yeah, I mean the biggest strength point to co-parenting like this is communication, uh, and like
Yeah.
if you're not communicating with your husband about these things, and if furthermore if he's not communicating with you about these things, it's not going to be successful.
Yeah, he needs to be like setting his like expectations of
Yeah.
you.
And I mean, a lot of times, he could not know that you want to communicate about these things, or like
Yeah.
he couldn't know that like he's supposed to be communicating about these things. So sometimes all it takes is just a little quick 5 minute conversation of, hey, next time when we do this, can you mention X, Y, and Z?
I know it sucks because it's like I'm not saying this is like all women that commented on my post or anything like that. There's so many women that will sit there and complain about their significant other to their friends, you know, to their Facebook
Hmm.
groups and stuff like that. Even this group, but won't even bother to have a conversation with their husband. It's like, how would you expect things to ever get better or change
It's not going
if you
to.
don't say anything? Like, we talk about that a lot because I have some friends who will sit there and complain to me about their husband, and um, I'll be like, "Well, did you talk to your husband about it?" And they're like, "Well, no." I'm like, "Okay, so what do you want me to do?"
Yeah.
um, um, next thing is something that like I don't think about often, but like when it was brought up, I was like, "Yeah, I can see that." So, this woman said that I have bio kids. But to other people, my husband is a hero for marrying me when I have a child from a previous relationship. But as a woman becoming a stepmom, it's different than a stepdad. It's not the applause he gets, not even remotely. Stepmoms are viewed differently. That's true. There's always been that like stepmom vibe forever, and like even through Disney, through everything. Like growing up, I had a lot of friends who parents were divorced and they had step parents, and all they would complain about is their stepmothers or
I mean,
stepfathers.
it's a stereotype that you
Yeah,
have to overcome, and I'm sure there probably are some statistics backed up behind it too.
yeah. I was listening to another stepmom podcast, and this woman was talking about how it's like it's also how the way you present yourself. Like this lady was talking about how like I think that they were at a restaurant or something like that, and I think the waitress or waiter was like, "Oh, is this your daughter?" And she was like, "Oh no, this is just my stepdaughter." And then the waitress and waiter was like, "Oh, okay." Like, but like it just the stereotype definitely came out. But when she says it more in an enthusiastic way, and she's like, "Oh no, like this is my bonus daughter," The waitress is like, okay, cool. Like she gets totally different reactions from just how she says it, and it's like it shouldn't even be like that.
No, yeah, it shouldn't be.
And it's like, as a woman, like we're always gonna be viewed as like eviler in a step parent role compared to a stepfather.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I've dealt with growing up, and so
Yeah.
like there are the bad eggs that make it harder for the rest of the stepmoms that are good.
I agree. And something that just sucks. It's not something like yeah. But I mean like being in I don't know what's that term? Joint family. It's
Yeah,
what it was called.
joint family, conjoined.
No, like mixed families.
Yeah,
Um, being in like mixed families, it's like it's becoming something that's so normalized in this day and age.
what stepmom being evil?
No, like having step parents, not like your bio parents aren't together.
Well, yeah,
So
that's mainly because the divorce boom.
yeah, and I mean, I think divorce is always gonna be something that should have existed. It was just be divorced back in the day. You were burned in hell, so people just decided to
Well, that
stay married.
that and judges weren't approving. So around the 60s or 70s, they gave more leniency towards wives that were in abusive relationships. And back then, there were a lot of alcoholic husbands who just came home and beat their wives.
Yeah.
So the minute they gave leniency to that, that's why there was a divorce boom because all these women that were in these abusive relationships were able to leave. And that's what kind of skews the statistic. That's why, like, when people say like, over half of marriages don't last, well, that's based off that statistic, like that
And a third of them.
database, and it's skewed because that's actually a happy statistic because these women were freed from these abusive marriages.
Yeah.
So I when people say that about I I don't really attest to that. I think each marriage is different and unique, and whether it lasts, honestly, I'd probably say I'd say probably either the first 2 years or first 5 years of like that's like once you get past that hump, then you already have communication systems and check and everything like that. Like that's the first hurdle in a marriage.
Um. We talked about this kind of already. I'm probably gonna read about maybe two or three more and then wrap it up. But this woman said, "My husband goes out of his way to try and understand my point of view, so I know I'm one of the lucky ones. I have 3 stepkids and no bio kids here. So again, I already relate. Like you really do go out of your way to like try to understand like where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
You're supportive in that way. Like, and a lot of men aren't. So yeah. So she knows that already." She said, "One thing we've discussed a lot and has been the hardest for me was the transition," which is kind of already what we like touched on, but I had never been in a long-term relationship, let alone with kids. I only had to feed me, take care of my bills, doctor appointments, etc. The first 2 years, their bio mom had primary custody, so I was able to ease in a bit with the responsibilities of being a parent, but our whole world changed when we got primary custody. We are a year in, and I'm still struggling with helping raise 3 kids. I'm very involved with them in every way, but for him, it just went back to normal. For me, everything changed. There was no one baby and then 2 babies and then 3 babies. It was like I had 3 kids all at the same time.
Yeah.
Um, Again, like I can't really like relate to that because there's no 3 kids here. It's just one. Um,
I mean,
but yeah, I get where she's coming from. It's like like before we were together, all I had to worry about was like school and like college, not
yeah, yeah.
not like high school, like college and paying my bills and yeah, not that I'm saying like I stay at home wifey, but
Yeah.
back then I pay I was only focused on like myself and like I didn't have to worry about children or anything like that, whether even sparing their feelings and stuff like that. And so like I think the biggest thing is like yeah, the transition. It's hard. It's like instead of having a nice relationship where you have, or like even like just the dating stages where you just get to know you, these women also have to get to know their children.
Yeah.
So it's like you're getting married to, in this particular case, you're getting married to like 4 people. You have to get to know 4 people instead of just
I mean,
one.
my advice to that would be to communicate with your husband on having a set time throughout the week or throughout the day that's reserved to you two as a couple.
Yeah, true.
Because like obviously you're not gonna get the home run where like you guys can start as your own relationship without kids involved. Like like you made that decision to fall in love and involve those kids, like marry those kids into the family. And so, but that doesn't mean that your standpoint is not valid. So you can meet in the middle and communicate. Like I said, a situation where it's just you two.
Yeah. Um, we kind of also touched on this in a way, but this woman said, it won't be insta love. I don't have bowel kids, medical reasons. And while I always wanted kids, and we had tons of discussions on raising kids and how I feel and he feels and where he fought with his ex, and then it's a completely different experience live and in front of you. He's a great dad. He handles so much, and I only handle what I specifically tell him I can handle. He never assumes that I will do things for the kids, which lets me be present and happy with what I choose to do. I think that's us. Um,
Yeah.
like you don't expect me to do everything. I do.
No. I think it was more so the opposite for me because I struggled a lot with understanding that I have someone to help me. Because even before when I had my daughter's mom in the picture, like I never got that help. Like I had to take care of a lot of things on my own, and that's kind of how I've always been growing up. And so I think the biggest thing was when I was getting ready for bed, and like you actually like got upset because you wanted to help, and I wasn't allowing you the opportunity to. And once I understood like this person wants to help you, and then I started thinking like I don't have to deal with this stress. I can share it. Like I don't I don't have to be stressed all the time. And it's been super rewarding, and it's honestly it's helped a lot too with my daughter understanding that this person is not quite her friend but not quite her mother. It's kind of someone that wants to take care of her and is there someone that she can trust essentially. It's kind of like providing opportunities of trust building. And so I've been really grateful for that.
Yeah. Um, Second last thing I want to talk about. I can't find the comment right now, but someone had mentioned like parenting, opposite parenting. There's so many things that like we've talked about in our relationship where um, because like I'm gonna be real. I talk about this with my friends all the time. Um, Justin knows nothing about children. He learned a lot. Before you had a kid, you knew nothing.
I mean,
Really.
I was put in this situation where I was set up to fail because I didn't see my daughter for like 6 or 7 months. So when I did get her,
Yeah.
she was already walking, she was already talking.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know when to transition her into potty training. Like I didn't know.
Yeah, but
Um,
even if you had all that time, you still wouldn't know. You know what I mean?
I would have had a better chance at knowing though
How's that?
if I had been spending time with her all the time and trying to understand like it's like the self-awareness of like changing the diapers, and it's like, well, I know this is not forever. Maybe when should I like start transitioning her into potty? But no, like I got her right when she was like what 2 or close to 2, and so like well like 1 and some change probably, yeah. Yeah. And like I mean my first thought wasn't when should I start potty training her, when should I start teaching her communication skills. It was, this is my daughter, I'm so excited to see her, let me just spend time. And I was a hover parent, like I just played with her all the time because I hadn't seen her in so long. So I was like I would literally spend whole days just playing with her toys, which definitely didn't help. It's kind of holding back on independent play, but I mean, do you blame me? Like, I hadn't seen my kid in that long, so
Yeah.
the last thing on my mind was all these developmental skills, all these, training stuff, like things that you're supposed to be doing as a parent to help develop your kid transition into like, preteen, teen, adult, and stuff like that. So,
I think like anybody that heard that, even I obviously know that, but like, and I understand it, and like I think that's why I feel like so like I feel like I have to be on your ass about these things because you like I get why you did it, but like you fucked up. Like you didn't fuck up, but like there's
that's why.
things by not thinking about these things or researching these things and stuff like that. And I know you do your research anyways, but like
Yeah.
but even like I'm just saying like before you even thinking about having children or had a child, you didn't know anything about them.
Yeah.
Besides, your siblings, maybe growing up. But like for a woman, it's different. And like my sister, not my sister, but
Well, and
your sister and I talk about this all the time. Like as women in summers, what did we do? We babysat neighbors' kids.
yeah.
We nannied. We did all that stuff. We know children a lot more than the average male does. And we have like that automatic like. Not every woman has this, but we have that automatic like maternal sense.
Yeah.
So
We can still take care of our kid though too.
yeah.
I mean, I think like
No one's saying you can't take care of one. I'm just saying, like, I'm talking about knowledge wise.
yeah. I mean,
Like, you didn't know anything about potty training. Obviously, if I didn't exist, you would have eventually figured it out. I just make it easier
yeah. Yeah.
because I know how it is. I've done it before.
Yeah.
So,
I think the other thing too is like we have. I feel like we have similar but also slightly different like parenting styles.
and that just has a lot to do with, like, how we were raised.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. That's like it applies to our situation and probably anyone else that like is in a situation where they have step kids but no birth kids, what they want birth kids is that like you basically have to look at how your husband parents their current kid and then apply that to, is this an acceptable parenting behavior that I would want with our kids? And if the answer is no, changing someone's parenting behavior is really difficult. And it's not something where you can, it's not black and white where you can just completely revert them and steer them towards the direction that accommodates to your parenting style. What you're going to have to do is meet in the middle and come up with, a system that accommodates both types of parenting.
Yeah. Like, there's a lot of things in the past that you've done with her, like with our 3-year-old, that I would be like, well, just so you know, when we have children, I will never do that. I
Yeah.
will never do this.
But see, and then that's an issue because you have to keep the parenting unified across the board. And so that's why I'm saying, yeah, and that's why like, we have to communicate about it and come up with some type of system that accommodates both sides too.
Yeah. Yeah. We're still learning, both of us.
Yeah.
Everybody is. I think everybody listening probably is.
Yeah.
So, um, and that's why we have these conversations in private and stuff like that. I think there's a couple of times where we've like accidentally talked about it in front of her, and that probably wasn't the best way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of got away with it because she's so young, but I mean, we're
She's
actively
getting
aware
to
of
that
it.
stage.
Yeah.
She's smart. Yeah, because kids listen even when you don't think they are. They are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and the last thing I'm gonna bring up for the night is boundaries. This is just so important in a relationship like this. This comment says boundaries. He should have set them with his ex and followed through with them for the sake of our relationship. When I moved in with my husband, we were dating at the time and I had no kids of my own yet. Even though their court order stated husband would keep the house and whatever was left in the house, bio mom kept boxes of her things there so she could come over whenever she wanted, or have him bring her a box if she wanted the attention. He seemed okay with it, but I thought it wasn't like something that was okay. Um, so a lot of like this person's just complaining about like ex boundaries.
Yeah, and we don't really have that issue.
Yeah, no, I don't think
Because
so.
I mean, we
A lot of that helps is that we live so far away from each other,
yeah.
and it's just so nice.
I mean, that's kind of how we stay civil too. It's like we keep the communication to a minimal.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I mean, I don't. Me personally, I don't understand how that like is acceptable or even
yeah.
tolerable because I
just like
can't I
lose my
can't
shit.
tolerate being around my ex for that long. Um,
I would personally lose my shit if like she was constantly around and stuff
I
like
would
that.
too.
I
Yeah.
see a lot of like stories on this page about being like um those that live in the same town. It's like the mother, the bio mother, like the mom will just like when they go drop the kids off or like come up to the doorsteps and like, try to peek their head in the house and stuff like that. And like that's why boundaries in those situations are so important. Like
I
that's
mean,
something you should be telling again, you should be telling your husband.
you see like a lot of times it'll go viral on Facebook of like some couple who like is bragging about how they're really good friends with their
Yeah.
moms or the stepmom's really good friends with the mom or vice versa, and like
Yeah.
that's great, but that is like a unicorn.
Yeah.
Because there are so
Don't
many
even think
situations.
is talked about in these groups is like um,
It's very delicate, like
yeah,
it's really 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 beneficial for the kid,
to
but
an extent.
it depends on like the history of the relationship. Was it like a really rough breakup to where like there was emotional attachment or physical or verbal abuse? Like there's so many variables to that whole scenario. um I think the perfect dream would be like for events that center around the child, like like a birthday or an accomplishment or something like that. You can tolerate being in the room together, but like you don't have to be best friends. Like you don't have to hang out with each other and everything like that. Like you're there for the child. And that's what I think that is. But like I see all these posts where they're like, I'm such good friends with so and so or something like that, and like me personally, I'm just not a fan of that. But that's just
Yeah. Neither. Even if, the ex relationship was, flipping fantastic. I'd probably even hate it more.
yeah, because you wouldn't have any reason. You wouldn't be upset, but there's no reason to be upset. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like that's just also like I think it gives your children like wrong expectations. Like they think that like they're gonna always have that dream that like mommy and daddy are gonna get back together because they're besties.
you're gonna get that regardless. But I get what you're saying. Yeah. Um,
I mean, depending on the age. So.
yeah, it depends on the age. Yeah, but that's just something you got to communicate, through and through.
Yeah.
Um, I think like me personally growing up, like my my parents' divorce was not nice or pretty by any means.
Yeah.
And I would have loved more than anything like the accomplishments I got through my sports and everything like that was to have my parents there to celebrate me and not want to be at each other's throats. But I never got that.
I get that.
And that's why like that's where I stand with like if it's for the child, like I I I would be able to put my differences aside.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be honky dory and be super,
It's being civil, really.
yeah, yeah. And so that's as far as I'll go. I won't go as far as like, choosing to be best friends with the ex or the ex's spouse or anything like that. Like I don't care to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Me personally, like, as of right now, I have a friendly relationship with my mother. Just because nothing bad has ever happened. I'm sure down the road we're gonna hustle, but right
Yeah.
now she's been acting wonderfully,
Yeah, I mean, we know why.
which is
But yeah,
helpful.
yeah,
It's like as long as we respect each other as our roles, and that's really all that matters at the end of the day.
yeah, yeah. It's pretty straightforward.
I think it also helps that like you guys both have partners,
That too. Yeah,
so it's like nobody's ever feeling left out in a way.
that's also true. Yeah, I didn't think about
That's
that.
helpful. I think about it all the time. I think
Yeah,
about everything.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Is when it comes to boundaries, it's a lot of these things, a lot of these issues or problems are things that you should always just be communicating with your husband or wife.
yeah. I mean, communication's key, and it really is the secret to a happy marriage. And sometimes you gotta suck up your pride or that fear of being embarrassed or talk to a certain way or something like that and just get it off your chest and you'll be a lot more thankful that you took that leap to begin with. So but I mean you should feel comfortable to say those things with your significant other anyways, because if you don't, then you do have underlying
Yeah,
issues
why
too.
are you?
Yeah, that's bad one. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So boundaries are important. Communication is important. Your feelings are valid, and that's about it. I think. Thanks for listening so much, and it was so fun
Yeah.
to talk.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Maybe I can do some more of these too. So all righty.